And let me share my screen, okay? Okay. So are you all able to see my screen right now? Hmm. Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Apple. Okay, so let's start with the DPDP rules. So as a normal human being, there is most people doesn't know what is the difference between an act and what is the difference between the rule. Okay, so an act is a like the coded document, like the constitution per se for in India. So an act is a particular coded documents that define rights, purpose, and obligations of in a particular sector. And for this, that is the DPDP Act, that is the Data Protection and Digital Personal Data, so Digital Personal Data Protection area. So in that particular case, it exists a act. So act is the topmost thing, and to navigate those or to administrate those particular rights, those particular obligations, those particular duties, those particular appeals, we have rules. Okay. So there is a particular word called administrative law. So the rules come under the administrative mechanism, like the bureaucracy or the state functionaries or the instrumentalities. So with that in particular thing, to navigate the DPDP Act, to implement the DPDP Act, to make sure the DPDP Act is operational in the market through an administrative body, we introduce rules. And that is why rules come into picture. And with that, when the rules were notified, and because of that, when the rules were notified in the last November 25, we saw we saw that the DPDP Act became operational. Okay, because the DPDP Act has already been passed in 23. When you look at the DPDP Act name, it always said DPDP Act 2023. But rules became operational in 2025, and that is why now there is a whole hustle in between all the market areas, and that is why we are also doing this particular session because the rules have come into picture and the act has become operational. Okay, let's proceed to the next slide. So, courses agenda I already discussed with you. First of all, we'll go through the rules, and if the time permits, we'll see on the practical consent lifecycle management as well. Okay. So let's start with. So as I already discussed in the first class that what was the main reason behind introducing the DPDP Act, because the Sai Krishna committee after the Puttaswamy judgment talked about the DPDP Act, and that is when the first personal data big bill was drafted. It was sent for public consultation in 2018. Then another revised data protection bill came into picture in the Joint Parliamentary Committee in 2022. Then finally, on 2023, the DPDP Act came into picture and it was passed, and the president made an assent to it. And then in January 2025, draft DPDP rules were also published for public comment. And finally, on 13th November, through a public gazette, the government of India notified the DPDP rules. So DPDP rules have uh, some timelines. Okay. So first of all, the title, the definition has all came into picture immediately. But the consent management registrations and obligations, like if we as a particular people or any consent management system in the market wants to register themselves, they have to wait till November of this year. And for any other market player who is dealing in digital personal data, has a 18 months of timeline that will operate until May 27 to comply with this particular data protection rules and act. So this is the timeline for whatever reason the you are working for the DPDP. And let's proceed to further. Now, now come to the definitions. Okay, so I'll tell you one thing. Law is all about definitions. Okay, so law is as precise as the definition tells it to. Okay, am I making sense to you people? Okay, because you all have closed your cameras and I can't see anybody of you. So I'll just keep asking like this. Like, am I making sense or not? Okay, yeah. So I'll tell you one more again that law is as precise as the definition tells us to, because law cannot operate unwanted of the definition. Law cannot operate on those areas where the definition doesn't tell it to. Okay, so that is why. So the most important definitions that come into picture when we talk about DPDP Act and rules is first of all user account. So what comes into the user account? So, under the user account, so anything that can be registered by the data principal with the data fiduciary, okay, that can include profiles, pictures, oh sorry, that can include profiles, okay, pages, handles, email IDs, and mobile numbers. Further, there is one thing that is techno-legal measure. What does techno-legal measure means? Okay, so it's like technology based on the legal mechanism adopted by the board or the appellate tribunal. Okay, so techno-legal, we as a consent manager, that is secure CMS, we are a consent management system. So we come under the this particular definition, that is the techno-legal measures. Okay, and the third and the most important definition that comes under this particular act is the verifiable consent. Trust me on this, verifiable consent. This particular definition can take you up to a 250 crore of penalty. Okay, if you violate this particular definition, or you are not compliant with this particular definition, even with a single person or even with a single data principal, it can take your company to up to 250 crore of penalty. And that is why definitions are so much important in this particular area or law, because every litigation, every landmark judgment that comes out of Supreme Court or the High Courts, all are based on the interpretations of these definitions. Okay. Then the notice. So under Rule 3 of the DPDP rules, there is a particular obligation of notifying the data principals by the data fiduciary. So I'll ask you questions from you people. Tell me this, like whenever you people try to register yourselves on websites or on apps, do you see any particular type of document that comes along with you, that comes on your screen? Can you tell me the name of that particular document? Anyone? Michael, Rahul, Arpan?
Like most of the time, we need to click on the checkbox, like terms and condition.
Yeah, terms and conditions and the privacy policy. Okay, so these are some of the document that comes along whenever you try to register yourself on a particular website or on a particular app, I may say. But with DPDP rules, that will not be the case in particular in future, because for that you'll have to give a particular different type of notice that is for taking the consent. So before collecting a consent, any data fiduciary will have to give a notice. Okay, the notice shall be independent. It shall be a standalone notice that has to be understood by the data principal. Okay, and you'll have to itemize it, like you'll have to list down everything like the purpose, the services that you are offering, the personal data that will be collected uh, from the data principal. It shall be written in a simple language, and it shall tell the rights to the particular data principal, like what are the rights, like withdrawal of consent, exercise of their rights. So with all these things, there shall be a different type of notice that shall come to your app or to your website. So anybody of you, if you are in a startup or you are in operating as a CTO or planning to do something in the future, this is how you'll have to navigate a particular type of notice as a data fiduciary. Okay. So, and one more thing that it cannot be, the notice cannot be listed down in the terms and conditions of the app or of the website. It has to be standalone. That is a very important thing. Now, let's proceed to the consent management, its registrations and obligations. So, like we are also a consent management system, and this is particular in like in relation to the consent managers also. So so right now, no one is has a verifiable license from the government of India because the data protection board is still in formation, and I think. Uh, as far as I know, it will be completely in formation up until July or June of this particular year. Okay. So the for a data consent manager for to be registered have some application. First of all, it has to be an Indian entity. It cannot be a foreign entity or even the data protection board officer or the data protection officer in particular companies cannot be a foreign entity. It has to be a registered entity in India. Second, the net worth has to be above 2 crore. Okay. So if anyone wants to build a consent management platform, they cannot make it in a VPN. Okay. So you'll have to, your net worth of your company or your organization shall be more than 2 crores. Okay. Then you'll have to show that you have the adequate technical operation and financial capacity. How you'll have to show it? Will have to pitch your product to the DPDP board. Then they'll check your financial conditions, management characters. They'll give you an independent certificate, and after that you'll become a official consent manager under the DPDP Act. Now, what shall be the obligations of the consent manager? First of all, the obligation come under the Schedule 1, Part B of the DPDP rules. Okay, that you'll have to give, manage, review, and withdraw the consent on. Okay, I'll tell you a small detail for a consent manager that data processing is still done by the data fiduciary only. Okay, okay. So when a data principal register themselves in a particular app or website, so data is still being processed by the data fiduciary or by that company that is taking the data. But managing that consent is a different thing. Consent managers cannot deep dive into the data. They cannot see the data. All the data is encrypted. They only manage the consent, like that you'll have how your withdrawal of your consent will function, how your eraser will function. So they are concerned with only this type of particular thing. They are not particular concerned with the processing of your data. Okay, what are the obligations of a consent manager? So it cannot read or access your personal data. You'll have to maintain a record for minimum of 7 years, and you cannot subcontract any obligation. So what is a subcontract of any obligation means? Like if there is an obligation that has to be obligated on the by the consent manager only, so they will have to do that, and they cannot hire any agent or agency or any of these particular uh, things to subcontract or sublease or sublet those particular kind of things. Okay, this can be done in different laws, but under the Data Protection DPDP Act, Digital Personal Data Protection Act, it cannot be done so. Okay, and the most important thing is that the consent manager has to uh, act in relation to the in for the data principal and not for the data fiduciary. Okay, we'll have to avoid with avoid the conflict of interest with data fiduciary. Okay, so we as a consent manager can only operate in the interest of the data principal and not the company that is taking the data. And the last and the most important is that there has to be an annual audit from the side of the DPBI, that is the Data Protection Board. So these are the, if you want to build a consent management system uh, on your own side, or if you want to do that, so these are the obligations that will that you'll have to follow. Then, so processing by the state and its instrumentalities. So processing by the state, you can understand that particular thing. But what are the instrumentalities? So instrumentalities, in particular legal sense, instrumentalities are the means where a state doesn't operate, but it acts as a beneficiary to that particular area, or it acts as a very important shareholder in that particular thing. Okay, so like for an example, BCCI, the Cricket Board Association of India, that is the most richest cricket board in the world, the BCCI. So that is an instrumentality of a state. In itself, it is a private body under the definition, and there is a case law that persists to it as well. Okay, BCCI is a private body, but it acts, but earlier it was a private body and it still functions as a private body in legal definitions, but it acts as an instrumentality of the state. Instrumentality. So, in simple sense, instrumentality means it is serving the purpose of the government. It is not entirely related with the government. It is not entirely associated with the government, but it is serving the purpose of the government in that particular area where the government it doesn't exist. Okay, for that, like Coal India Private Limited, CPIL, it's the only coal company in India that operates. Okay, and every other company or every other mining operation has to be taken a permission from CPIL. CPIL in itself is a company, okay, but it is an instrumentality of the state, and that is what instrumentality means. So now comes to the DPDP Act again. So when the state processes data for the subsidies or benefits or services, certificate licenses or permits, so it has a exemption in the DPDP, and that is what the most legal loophole exists, where the most legal loophole exists in the DPDP Act. That, as I told in the start of this particular session, that law is as precise as its definition. So the state has exempted themselves that when a state or its instrumentality acts for the benefit of people, so they don't have to take a consent from you. Okay. So, like for ration cards, for availing any subsidies or Aadhaar cards or PM schemes or Manrega or anything as such, like Jan Dhan Yojana or the Mahila Samman Yojana. So these are all the schemes of the states, or a state in particular. When I say state means the government of India and the state governments as well. State means every government. So a state doesn't have to take an consent from you or any of the data principal, and it is exempted under the DPDP. And that is where in future the most amount of litigation will come. I'll say this again, the consent management or from the side of the government, these are the two areas where in future the DPDP will get the most amount of litigation. Now, Rule 6. So, reasonable security standards. So, what are the reasonable security standards? As I told you in my first session as well, that earlier when the IT Act was in operation, still it is in operation, but the IT Act Rule 64 or 65, it is under that particular act, there was a separate SPDI rules that was governing personal data. Under that particular rule, there was Rule 8, where it talked about reasonable security safeguards. And under that rule, the reasonable security was not below ISO 2700 standard. But right now, that reasonable security is only defined in the process. It is not linked to any particular certification. So in future, I think it will be amended again, because laws are always amended, laws are always being updated. So I think it will be amended. Okay, but still, uh, overall, whatever rules say so, will study it. So under the reasonable security standard for your company, if you are taking the data principles data, so every data fiduciary must protect the personal data in its possession. First of all, there is a protection of the personal data. How you'll have to protect it? Either you can encrypt it or mask it, or you can introduce virtual tokens. Virtual tokens function like without revealing the underlying data, it can function like. Okay. Then access control on computer resources. So under your company, not everybody should have the access to that particular data. There has to be a role-based models for each for the company, like only DPO or the CEO or the CTO can access those data. Then there has to be a long logs monitoring and reviews for the data. Like when you delete it, you'll have to maintain those logs. When you present it, you'll have to maintain those logs. So whenever you process these kind of data, you'll have to maintain a monitoring system, log system, and that is how you'll have to maintain it. Fourth of all, you'll have to maintain your data backup. Okay. Then you'll have to retain the logs for minimum of 1 year, even after erasure. So suppose that if the customer has taken its consent back, and now you are now it wants to delete that, he wants to delete his particular data. So he has minimum of so even after deletion, you have to maintain those particular logbook for a minimum of 1 year, and within those years, the government can whenever anytime can ask for that particular logbook. Okay, then you'll have to maintain contractual provisions with the data processor for the security, like for different like whoever processes that particular data, like as a company, not every company processes the data. They hire cloud servers or anything. You'll have to maintain those contractual provisions. For that, you'll have to check the contractual clauses, like how it is not violating the DPDP Act. And last of all, you'll have to maintain a technical and organizational measures to ensure compliance. Okay. In that TOM, what comes? So first of all, you'll have to maintain everything as per the DPDP Act. You'll have to maintain as to what you will do if any data breach comes. So this is how like data breach mechanism will have to also maintain. You'll have to maintain how you are operating through your vulnerabilities. So these are some things that can come under right now in reasonable security stand safeguards. Earlier, ISO certification would be doing that thing for you, but right now, uh, it is not the same case. Now let's proceed further. So now comes the rule 7. That is the uh, is everyone with me? Uh, Nobody's speaking or asking questions. So every one of you listening, right? Okay, great. Okay, let me go back. Hmm. Now, okay, so this is also very now the intimation of the data breach. So this is a very important thing. How you are intimating about any personal data breach. So when we talk about GDPR, that is the European Standard for Data Protection, under that particular regulation, they have a single mechanism. Like within a 72-hour period, they'll have to inform their data protection authority, like the GDPR data protection authority. They'll have to inform in 72 hours. But in the DPDP or for India, from now on, there is a parallel to mechanism that is operating right now. First of all, there is a immediate notification. Now, for the immediate notification, there is no time time limit. Okay, immediate means immediate. Like it can be 10 minutes, half hour, 1 hour, 3, 4 hours. Okay, This is also somewhere where like in future litigation may arise or the question may arise because uh, immediate notification, there is no definition of immediate notification. There has to be some time. Okay, so whatever immediate it is for your company, it can be immediate. And for that, in that particular immediate notification, you'll have to notify preliminary things. What is the nature and extent and timing of the breach? What are the consequences that likely to affect the data principal? What are the risk mitigation strategies you are taking care of? What is the safety measures you are taking? And you'll have to share a DPO phone number or email or any concerned person whom the data principal can reach out to. So this is the first notification. And this notification will go to both the person, that is the data principal as well, and the data protection board as well. Okay, so this too is supporting the first stage as well. Data protection, data board will also be informed, and the data protection principal will also be informed that your particular data has been breached. So suppose that if I am a consumer of a particular company and my data has been breached, so I will receive a notification immediately. Okay, and then comes a 72-hour reporting period. After 72 hours, you'll have to report to the data protection board with a proper detailed description about the data protection, what kind of data protection mitigation strategies you are taking care of, like the breach information, cause and events related to that particular breach, why that breach happened, what strategies you took care for, what are the remedies you are going to give. Okay, and based on that particular thing, your penalty will be decided. Okay, if this particular compliance is done within a stipulated time, there can be a zero to no penalty or a minimum penalty. Or if this particular thing is not came into picture, it will act as a non-compliance. And your company, if it is an SDF, it can go up to your fine can go up to as 250 crores. It is a very big number for fine or your for the reputation of your company. And even if you are a very small company, a non-compliance can lead you up to a huge uh, mm, fine. Okay, then yeah. So now the data eraser protocol. Okay, so when the purpose of the data is finished, so then the data erasure has to be done from the side of the data fiduciary. Listen to me one thing that for data principal, I as a data principal or you as a data principal or anybody as a data principal or a consumer or a customer can at any point of time ask for an eraser. Okay, that is our right. But from the side of the data fiduciary, when the purpose of that particular data has been finished, it is an obligation to delete that particular data. It is an obligation from their side. They cannot retain that particular data for a more than stipulated period of time. That is 2 years, 3 years for different type of sector or companies. So under the third schedule of the specific data fiduciary classes and time limits, suppose that e-commerce entities like Amazon, because they have more than 2 crores of registered users. So if you have more than 2 crores of registered users like uh, Amazon, Flipkart, or Snapdeals, these kind of particular areas, Myntra. So after a 3 years of inactivity, you'll have to they'll have to delete the data. Or if you are into online gaming, if you have more than 50 lakh of registered users, or you are a social media intermediary, so with that particular thing, if you are operating above 50 lakh registered user for a gaming industry or 2 crore user for e-commerce or social media intermediary, you'll have to erase the data if it has not been operated from last 3 years. So e-commerce, online gaming intermediaries, what is a social media intermediary. So, under the social media intermediary rules, uh, sh- any social media platform where a consumer or a customer can go and upload their uh, what I can say. any video or any information, and where consumer can uh, what I can say consume that particular content, that is a social media. Under that, Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, every social media platform you can think of, every video platform you can think of, like OTT platforms, Netflix, Amazon Prime, these all come under the social media intermediary. Okay, under the definition of the social media intermediary. And with social media intermediary definition, you'll have to look in the social media intermediary rules. Okay, their definition come under that particular rules, not under the DPDP. Now, what are the key procedure in this particular rule? That is, uh, you'll have to give a 48-hour advance notice to the data principal or the consumer that you are deleting their data. And in that, suppose that login also comes. If the data if the consumer can log is have logged in the particular app with that 48-hour of period, the 48-hour timeline resets. Okay. So if suppose that there comes a notification to me and I try to log in that particular app, so that 48-hour period will reset again. Okay. Then there have to be a minimum 1 hour retention period that I already told you in the last slide, that even after deletion, for investigation purposes or for the government authorities, for any reach outs to you, for any needing information to you, you have to maintain 1 hour of log period related to that particular data for security and sovereignty purposes. And the erasers exceptions are only uh, civil law. So the erasure exceptions, whatever exception those exist only in the applicable laws or the government notification. Okay, if government notifies that this particular area will not uh, is exempted from the uh, erasure, then that particular area can be exempted. So this is what exception means. There are only some exceptions that is from the government side. Like if you want to use the data for statistical purposes, analytical reasonings, or research purposes, or like population census, or these all things. So with that thing, you can retain the data. But these are the only limited exception, like 6, 7 limited exceptions. Now, the data principle and from rule 9 to 14. Now comes the data principal rights and the contact information. Okay. So what like every data principal must whenever there is a like breach or anything as per se, so you'll have to mention the contact detail of the data protection officer or any designated person that can answer questions about the data processing of that particular person, of that particular data principal, or that particular consumer. You'll have to, like, an email will not suffice from now on. An email will not work, or a call for action pop-up message will not work. You'll have to maintain a proper phone number as well for contact purposes. Now, we'll come to the rights of the data principal. When we talk about principal, we are talking about consumer. Okay. So first of all, there has to be a public mechanism for the exercise of those rights. Okay. So how can it be done? Like fiduciary will have to publish any form or any link. So you'll have to mention that in a very good manner, like from where you can exercise those rights. You can publish a form, you can publish a link. From there, they can click, they can go to a separate platform where they can maintain their consent, they can ask for deletion, they can ask for updation, they can ask for an eraser. Okay, these kind of things. So you'll have to give them a proper platform or a proper showcase as to how they can perform their right. Okay, then you'll have to you'll have to publish the required identifiers, like what data you are processing, how much you are processing, for what purpose you are processing. Okay, these are the identifiers. Then there comes the grievance redressal. Okay, you'll have to respond of any grievance within 90 days of stipulated period with technical and organization measures in place. Okay, like earlier, like 7 to 8 or 10 years earlier, when Facebook was in India. So you'll if you want to have any grievance registered to the Facebook, or you'll have to get answer from a Facebook, you'll have to maintain like a month or 3 weeks, 4 weeks. But since the data protection has come into picture, or the government has become more stringent toward these particular kind of things, Facebook or any particular social media app has become more uh, active toward grievance redressal. From now on, that is an effective system that will have to uh, particularly do so. Then, then there is a nomination. So earlier it was not a thing, but right now, like nomination is particular thing in data for consent management. Okay, uh, when I say like nomination is sorry, there was a call from my son. The nomination means like when you go to for insurance purposes, or you go to open a bank account, you'll have to nominate a particular nominee. Well, like when you die, or you are not able to manage your consent, or you are not able to manage your rights about those data, you'll have to answer. You'll have to nominate a particular person who can exercise those rights on your behalf. This particular thing doesn't is not under GDPR. It is like special to DPDP. Then then the identifiers have to be defined as well, like customer ID, enrollment ID, email, mobile number, like whatever data you are taking, right? Okay. Then there is a verifiable consent for children's personal data. Okay. Now this is very, very, very important thing. Very important. Okay. Like how you are verifying a consent for a children. Suppose that a child, like nobody can know who is behind the screen. Your company cannot know who is behind the screen. Even a 12-year-old or a 14-year-old or a 15-year-old can act on behalf of his parent and give that particular parent's consent. Okay, this is a very complex thing, and as a consent manager, or as a technology specialist in this particular domain, people will have to uh, navigate this complexity. Okay, you'll have to obtain a verifiable consent of the parent and verify the parent is an adult 18 plus. So these are two important uh, uh, obligations that you'll have to follow if you're taking a children's consent. So suppose that you are into gaming like PUBG or this particular kind of things, or like YouTube Kids, there is Amazon Kids. So this particular things, you'll have to obtain a verifiable consent from the parents, and parents shall be 18 plus. Now, how you will do so? Okay. So verifiable consent is a very important particular thing. Either you can go to uh, either you can navigate through this, like if the parent is already registered on your particular app, you can navigate from there, or you can voluntarily ask for the parent to submit their details like government ID, government proofs, whatever you can ask for bank details, or for to verify that the person behind the screen is the uh, parent only. You can take video KYC or anything as such, or you can also take virtual tokens from uh, what or anything as as particular as such, like DigiLocker or Jam or anything, where the persons are already registered and this is a government entity. From there also you can navigate that particular parental consent. So this is a very uh, complex thing, and entrepreneurs or startups or companies will have to navigate this particular verifiable consent thing if you are operating in children's domain like edtech or anything as such. So there are some exceptions to it for the children's consent as well. Okay. Now, what are the exemptions from the side of the parental consent for children is, just give me 1 second. Hmm. Okay, great. So what are the exemptions? So exemptions means, I mean, this where this will not apply. So if your child is so if your company or startup or you as a data fiduciary is operating in clinical or mental health sector, so if you are exempted from taking parental consent. If you are into allied healthcare professional system, like you are into treatment or you are into referral plan support, anything as such. If you are into educational institutions or coaching institutions, or if you are into child or daycare system, daycare uh, startup, or you are into a another type of like transport engaged by educational institutions also. So if you are in these particular domains, so you are exempted from taking a parent children consent. Okay, so you are exempted from taking children consent, but that particular thing will have to be very compliant in nature. You'll have to use that particular data for the purpose that you are defined for only. Okay, so these are some things that you'll have to navigate further. Exempt purpose can also be statutory. Okay, like there has to be maintenance of subsidies or benefits for the child. You are creating an email only user accounts, or you're trying for real-time location tracking for child safety as well. So these are also some areas where you are exempted, but your data processing will have to be limited to the processing purpose only, and will have to delete that particular data immediately after the purpose has been fulfilled. Okay, so there is an exemption, but that exemption is very limited. Then there comes the additional obligations of the significant data fiduciary. Uh, till now, is everyone with me? Like anyone, if there is any question, you can stop me and you can ask. Okay, you can ask me anytime. Okay, now comes the additional obligations of the significant data fiduciary. As I told you in my first session as well, there are two types of data fiduciary. One is the normal general data fiduciary, and then there is a significant data fiduciary. Right now, there is no differentiation that has been notified from the side of the government, even in the act or even in the rules, that what is an SDF. But with a simple understanding, significant data fiduciaries will be those particular people either handling in sensitive sensitive personal data. Just give me 1 second. Okay, sorry, someone was at my door. Okay, sorry for the yeah. So I was like talking about significant data fiduciary. So right now there is no differentiation, but in future, SDFs will be one either handling in the sensitive personal data domain. Sensitive personal data comes like biometric systems, biometrics or genes or health healthcare system or fintechs. Okay, these are areas where you are operating at a sensitive personal data area, or you are into an area where you are handling a volume of consumers like 2 crore, 3 crore, 5 crore, 10 areas where you can be called as a significant data fiduciary in future. Like my prediction is this, okay? It can change in future, but right now it will be only this. Okay, once you have been notified as an SDF, you'll have to operate for this compliance for every 12 months. Okay, what is that compliance? That is, you'll have to do an audit, DPIA audit on every 12 month. Last session we did a sample DPIA audit. Okay, like most of you have attended it. Most of you are from the first session only. I can remember the names right now. Okay, then there has to be an algorithmic audit also. There will be a like they will verify the technical measures, How is your software functioning from the side of the from the backend side, like hosting or publishing or the storage. Like if those particular thing doesn't pose a right to the data principal interest, this kind of audit, it has not been particularly defined right now how this TPIA or allocation data audit will be uh, uh, done. Now, last will be data localization. As I told, like I told you this that I am not confirmed, but I am confirmed right now that the data that the government has not pushed the data localization in this DPDP. Like it is not, it has become optional from the side of the government. Like the government will tell you that if you want to do a data localization or not. Okay. Like if there are particular sectors, or if you are from a particular country, like if you are from any particular country that is a red flag, then only in that particular place the government can tell you that okay, this data has to be localized. Or I think the most of the time, uh, like there is an adjustment procedure. Like in last week also, Rahul Gandhi standing in the parliament told how the what I can say, the trade agreement between India and USA is coming into picture, that the Modi government or the government of India has gone to the table with the data with the India with the data of the Indian people as a bargain power. Okay, because we have a 1 billion people in our country, 1.4 billion in our country, we have a huge number of data, and that data is a new oil. So he has accused the government of India that the data localization has become optional now, and because of that particular thing, the USA is now coming into picture for that particular trade agreement has come into picture because most of these companies operate from US and the USA wants our data. So because it has become optional now, let's see what happens in future. Like uh, I think most of the SDFs will not abide to the data localization in India. Okay, they are starting to make data centers in India. I can see that like in Vizag or in Gujarat or in the gift city of Gujarat. I can see there have been huge investments for the data centers to be established, but I don't think that will be pushed further with that thing in mind. Okay, so these are some of the uh, important thing that as a data significant data fiduciary, the company will have to follow. Sorry, I'm getting very thirsty. Okay, so let's proceed. The transfer of personal data outside India. So, like I talked to you about this in the last slide as well. Like the data fiduciary may be transferred outside India, subject to the meeting requirement that the central government will notify further. There is no blanket restriction. Like whatever I taught about the data localization in the first session, I think I'm somewhere wrong. Okay, I was like informed that because earlier because the rules were not notified when I read the act and the rules, it was all still in the drafting stage. I read detail, and in that particular time, data localization was a uh, permanent thing. But right now, the blanket restriction has been removed. I think because the big billion-dollar companies would have pushed for it, there will be a government order required if you are a foreign entity or under control. So there are some SDF exceptions that the government might give you. Okay, so these are some of the thing that has government of India done in the DPDP Act for the data localization. Then and the government information powers. Okay, so as I already told you before a few slides that the DPDP Act provisions does not apply for for the some purposes, like if it's a lawful purpose, if it's for research, if it's for archiving, it's for statistical purposes. For this particular kind of thing, the DPDP Act does not apply. These areas have been exempted. Okay, so that like if there is a population index, or if you as a, or if somebody is some big company is trying to do a particular research or trying to maintain a particular report. So with that particular thing, there is huge volume of data you'll have to go through. So for that, DPDP Act doesn't apply to, but there have to be some standards, like it has to be a lawful processing, it has to be a purpose limited research or a statistics. The data shall be minimized. Like whatever the minimum you should do, you have to do. Okay, you'll have to operate within that particular uh, minimization only. There has to be an reasonable accuracy and security safeguards, and there has to be a data or DPO controller, data protection officer, or a particular person accountability is attached to it. There has to be some person that will answer for those questions, like what is the processing. You are exempted from the compliance, but still you'll have to answer to the SD for the data principal questions. Okay, and then this is the right now it is also the most debated thing, that the all these rules have been for the market only and nothing. Can you share the sheet for recording? Okay, okay, so Vanshi, I'll share that Indian sheet. Sorry, I'll share that Indian sheet right now. Okay, so that uh, all of you please register yourself. Okay, please mark your attendance on this particular Google form. Okay, so that I can share video recording with you in the future. There is another question I remember only regarding the sharing with you yesterday about the blacklist approach. Yeah, see, yeah. So, yeah, see, Mikhail, so I don't know about the USA, but blacklist approach is something that when I think when a country, suppose that it has been blacklisted in the FATF or it is in a red flag. Okay, so with that particular countries as well, the government can tell that the data has to be localized. Okay, data cannot go into that particular country. Suppose that if some countries from some companies operating from China. Okay, so I think that blacklisting will be for China or will be for any other enemy state or the rogue state against India. So that is what blacklist approach is. Or if the company is also rogue or acting in a rogue way, so that is blacklist approach can happen. Okay, USA is doing that with TikTok, I suppose. Okay, ByteDance, that is the parent company. I suppose they are doing with that with TikTok. Okay, right now also we have not done with any company, I think. Yeah, and please mark your attendance. Yeah. Okay, okay. Okay, so so again, this is the most important thing that is debated right now because government, what government has done in this particular act, like when my faculty was also teaching me, when I talked with any other lawyers as well, when I talked with my colleagues as well, that government has made every rule, every law, every compliance for the market, and they have reviewed, they have what I can say, revised themselves from everything. Okay, so sovereignty and security, performance of statutory function, disclosure obligation under applicable law, a standard that under which if the government is taking any information, they have to answer to nobody. Okay, they don't have to answer the Supreme Court of India. They don't have to answer the citizens of India. They don't have to answer the Constitution of India as well. Okay, with this particular thing in with this particular rule in uh, impact. Okay. So this is what the most debated thing is, and as I told you in the first an hour earlier as well, law is as precise as its definition. So if sovereignty, anything can come under sovereignty. Okay, so suppose that if you are tomorrow you are charged with Arms Act or UAPA. That is the anything or any suppose that any other sedition charges, and the government will go to the company like Facebook or Instagram, and they'll ask for your data. You as a data principal, they ask for your data, and the companies in the market cannot say no to the government. This is what in crux this rule means to. Okay, that government can tomorrow ask for any person data from the company, and these rules will not apply to them. These obligations will not apply to them. They will not be answerable to Constitution. They will not be answerable to the Constitution. They will not be answerable to the Supreme Court as well. Okay, let's proceed. So, now, this is like the structure for the Data Protection Board. What shall be its structure and what shall be its procedure? It's not very important for you people, but still, since it's in the rules, so I'll just give you an overview. Like what shall there shall be a chairperson appointment. Okay, so first of all, that chairperson shall be one cabinet secretary plus two MIT secretaries plus two domain experts. MIT secretary in Ministry of Information Technology. So two secretaries will come from that. Two secretaries will come from the domain lateral entries, and like there will be a nominated people, and one will be the cabinet secretary that will oversee it. So these are the five-person committee that will operate on the chairperson level. Then there are the member appointments. Okay, there is a mighty secretary. There will be one will be mighty secretary, one will be law secretary, and two will be nominated as a domain experts. So these are their salaries, like 40,000 a month, 4 lakh a month, so 4,50,000. This is too much. Okay, so let's proceed further. Like, okay, now there comes the appeal. So you'll have to know that Data Protection Board in itself is a quasi judicial body. Quasi judicial body means that it also function as an administrative body and as a judicial body as well. So they can charge you with this, but like uh, if you are in this area, so like technical market, so you would be following that recently what happened with WhatsApp. Like Supreme Court of India, the Chief Justice of India said, if you can't follow our data protection rules, then leave this country. We don't need you. Right? Many of you would have heard that in news. Why that was happening? Because me and you and many other people, when 2020 hit, so we were seeing a notification of a privacy policy on our WhatsApp, and there was not a no option that we cannot. There was not a reject option. There was only a accept option in that particular privacy policy. And what that privacy policy was doing, it was stating that that it was specifically stating, okay, that yes, that we are owner of this particular. Meta was telling that we are owner of WhatsApp, and our data is being processed in WhatsApp only for WhatsApp only, and we cannot see it. It is encrypted and all those kind of things. Okay, but there was not a no option. There was not a reject option. There was only an accept option. Okay, so because I remember because for months I didn't do that, and at last I did accept it. Okay, because there was not a no option for that. The uh, Competition Commission of India, that is checking in that checks in the that there is a perfect competition in the market. They find them for like very huge fine, like it was like around 800 or 250 crores. Okay. So this is what CCI does. It is also quasi judicial body. It is also performing an administrative function. It is also performing a judicial function. So, and that is what DPO is also. It is also an administrative body where it will see that the data protection industry works fine, it works in compliance, and it also deliver judgment, it also deliver fine, it also see through the evidences, see through the hearings, okay, when there is a violation or when there is a penalty. And after that, if you are thinking that you'll have to go for a appeal, that you are not, your company or you as a data fiduciary is not happy with the action of the Data Protection Board, then there is an appellate authority, that is the appellate tribunal, that is the TRI. Okay, that is the appellate tribunal under the TRI. For anybody that you don't know, TRI is Telecom Regulatory Authority Act of India. Okay, it regulates the telecom industry, and because there cannot be a specific tribunal for each act, what government does is it identifies some areas to some tribunals to some acts as well. Okay, like TRI is for DPDP also, TRI is for IT Act also, TRI also uh, is an appellate body for some more market areas as well. So this is what government does. Like they don't have an infrastructure to maintain every tribunal, so they just nominate, okay, that this will be appellate tribunal, and above that, the Supreme Court of India. Okay, there is because appellate tribunal will be the national authority, national level tribunal. Above that, uh, everybody has the power to go to the Supreme Court. Nobody can stop you. Okay, and like there, the filing will all be through online procedures only. Like it will have worked as a function as a digital office also. Physical presence is not mandatory in those hearings or in those procedures, and it will have it will have its own powers. It will be like CPC is Civil Procedure Code. It will act under the Civil Procedure Code in terms of evidences, in terms of hearing, in terms of filing, but they are not bound by it. They have their own rules. They have all their own filing procedure, and they'll bound by the natural justice principle. Okay, what is a natural justice principle? It is written nowhere. It is a natural law, which is nemo juris causa ex rexta. That is, nobody can be judge in its own case. Like I cannot be judge in particular case where I have been a part of and audio trumpartum. That is, you have to be heard. Nobody can pass a judgment until and unless they have not been heard, until and unless the parties have not been heard. This is what the crux of the natural justice principle is. It is it is written nowhere, but it is present everywhere. It is present in every law in this country. It is present in Constitution of India. It is present in every act. It is present in every tribunal. It is present in every rules, but it is written nowhere. Okay. So with this, like we have come to an end. I see that like I'm tired now, so there was one also small section that I wanted to take for the consent lifecycle management. That will be for like if you want to build a consent management system also. Let's do that next Saturday. Okay. And with that, please uh, mark your attendance and please ask any question if you want to. Okay. Please ask. Anyone, if you have any questions, please unmute yourself and you can ask. And before that, please mark your attendance in this particular form, in this particular Google form, please. I'll share this recording. I'll share the notes. I'll share this PPT in a folder, and I'll share a quiz tomorrow morning or by. And please, whatever quiz I share, please attend that particular quiz. Even though if you are not watching a video, with that PPT and with that quiz, you can learn things.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, Akansha, please tell.
Yeah, I have a concern. Like, since we are doing all this theory part and everything, so I
So,
actually, so since I'm
yeah.
from the technical background, so I just have a query that will we be able to, implement something like how can we do a concern from yourself if we want to do something? So I am actually particularly interested in that. So how we can implement this consent manager in the real life scenario or maybe in the project project. So if you can add this, that will be a value addition to this.
Okay, so I'll tell you one thing. Next week, I'll take a consent management life cycle, consent mapping life cycle management. Okay, with that, you can exactly understand what particular things are need for the management in the uh, what particular things will be you will be able to perform in the consent management area. Okay, like for myself, I am a lawyer. I don't know what a coding is, but I can tell you what important things will be needed in terms of consent management. Will that work? Miss Akansha, like, will that work for you? Like, if suppose that I am telling you like what are the particular things are needed for consent management, or you can reach out to us as well. Like my CTO or my CEO can tell you how our product work as well. We are also a consent management system. We have built this particular product. Okay, so, and when the licensing uh, bracket will open, we'll get our license as well.
Like
Okay.
since you are a consent management company,
Hmm.
suppose like I am building a project providing the consent. Maybe like I have a CV, right? And if I
Hmm.
want to share that CV to a particular HR, and then it should be like based on the consent management.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if
Good.
something is related to this, so that we can actually visualize
Huh.
why we
So,
are doing this entire
yeah, so
consenting.
see, that is something that has to be operated on a company to company basis. Okay, so that will be tuned for every company, every different company. Like if your consent management is for your particular company, your company is operating under HR management as well. You are managing your customer data as well, your employees data as well. Okay, so everything will be different for different companies. For health sector, there will be different type of uh, what I can say personalized systems, and that will be dependent on the consent management system. Like if you are talking about us, so whatever company yours is, okay. So first of all, we will tune our product for your company needs. We'll tune our product for an end-to-end encryption. We'll tune our product for your end-to-end uh, project, and that is how a consent management system shall operate. That is how we also operate. Okay, like
Okay.
managers will operate in future. That will all be as a no-code solution. What I can teach you is how you can manage your what particular things will be come under consent management. I can tell you that only. Like it will be a no-code
Okay.
tool.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, like if you want to, like in terms of consent management domain, what particular things will be important? Like one consent manager will not work for everyone. Okay, everything will be uh, tuned for every different area, different products, different companies.
Okay. Understood.
Thank you. And let's meet last Saturday, next Saturday. Our next Saturday will be our last. Okay, I'll drop a quiz tomorrow, and please mark your attendance. Thank you.